If you are 65 or older, or if someone you love depends on Social Security, stop what you're doing right now and watch this entire video. Because in the last 2 weeks, two massive pieces of news dropped that directly affect your Social Security check, your monthly income, your retirement. And I'm not talking about rumors. I'm not talking about speculation. I'm talking about official government reports, real inflation data, real numbers, real deadlines. The first piece of news involves a clock, and that clock just moved closer to midnight than it has in years. The second piece of news sounds like good news on the surface, but there's a catch buried inside it that most people are completely missing, a catch that could quietly cost you hundreds of dollars every single month. I'm going to break both of these stories down for you in plain, simple language. No jargon, no spin, no political games, just the facts, what they mean for you specifically, and exactly what you need to do right now. Stay with me through this entire video because the details matter. And I promise you, by the time this video is over, you will understand your Social Security situation better than most people in Washington want you to. Before we get into it, if you are new here, welcome. This channel exists for one reason: to track the financial news that affects seniors and retirees and translate it into language that actually makes sense. No fluff, no filler, just the information you need to protect your income and your future. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on the notification bell, because what I'm covering today is breaking as of this week. And this is exactly the kind of thing I track every single day. So you don't have to spend hours trying to figure it out yourself. Subscribe bell on. Let's get into it. The Trustees Report. The clock is moving. What the Trustees Report is and why it matters. Every single year, the United States Treasury Department and the Social Security Administration publish a document together called the Trustees Report. Most Americans have never heard of it. Most people in the evening news barely cover it. But if you receive Social Security, or if you plan to receive it, this report is one of the most important documents the federal government produces all year. Why? Because the Trustees Report is the official financial health check of the Social Security system. It tells us how much money is in the trust fund and how fast money is flowing in, how fast money is flowing out, and the number everyone pays attention to, how many years the fund has left before it runs out of reserves. This year's Trustees Report came out on June 9th, 2026, and the headline number is 2032. That is the year the Social Security Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund, that's the main retirement fund, is now officially projected to run out of reserves. Why 2032 is different this year? Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. They've been saying Social Security is running out of money for years. Why should I believe it this time? That's a fair question, and here's the honest answer. The reason this year's report matters more than past reports isn't just the number itself. It's the direction the number is moving. Last year, in the 2025 Trustees Report, the projected depletion date was the first quarter of 2033. This year, it moved to the fourth quarter of 2032. That's one full quarter earlier. And this is the second consecutive year in a row that the date has moved in the wrong direction. When a number moves in the wrong direction 2 years in a row, that is not noise. That is a trend. And the Trustees Report actually explains in plain language exactly why the date moved. Here's what happened. The one big beautiful bill, short-term win, long-term cost. In 2025, Congress passed and the President signed what was called the One Big Beautiful Bill. Contained inside that legislation were provisions that reduce the amount of income tax that Social Security beneficiaries pay on their benefits. Now, on the surface, that sounds great, and in the short term, it is. If you are currently receiving Social Security, you may have seen a little more money staying in your pocket because of that tax reduction. That's real, that's tangible, and I'm not going to tell you that's bad for you personally. But here's what nobody told you about the other side of that coin. A portion of the income taxes that Social Security beneficiaries pay on their benefits flows back into the Social Security Trust Fund. It's part of how the system funds itself. When Congress reduced those taxes, they also reduced the amount of money flowing back into the fund. Less money in, same amount of money going out. The math moves in one direction, and that direction is toward depletion. Faster than before. This is not a political opinion. This is what the Trustees Report states directly. The One Big Beautiful Bill's senior tax provisions accelerated the timeline to depletion. Full stop. What actually happens in 2032, the truth they're not telling you. Now, here is where I need you to pay very close attention, because this is the part that the news media gets wrong almost every time they cover it. And what they get wrong could cost you a great deal of peace of mind and a great deal of money. When the Social Security Trust Fund runs out of reserves in 2032, Social Security does not go away. Let me say that again clearly. Social Security will not disappear in 2032. Here's why. Social Security still collects payroll taxes from every single working American, every single pay period, every single year. That money keeps coming in regardless of what happens to the trust fund. Reserves. The trust fund running out doesn't stop payroll taxes from being collected. What it means is this. Those incoming payroll taxes alone, without the reserves to supplement them, are only projected to cover 78% of what beneficiaries are legally owed. Which means minus, and this is the number I need you to write down, if Congress does absolutely nothing between now and 2032, benefits would be automatically cut by 22% for every recipient. Not some recipients, not just new recipients, every single person receiving Social Security, regardless of age, regardless of health, regardless of how long you've been collecting. What a 22% cut actually means in your wallet. Let me put that number into dollars so it is crystal clear what we're actually talking about. The current average Social Security benefit is approximately $1,981 per month. A 22% cut on that benefit is $436 less every single month. That's $5,232 less every year. Gone. If you are receiving $500 per month, a 22% cut is $330 less every month, $3,960 less every year. If you are receiving $2,500 per month, a 22% cut is $550 less every month, $6,600 less per year. And if you are one of the 44% of retirees in this country, that's nearly 25 million Americans who depend on Social Security for 100% of your income, a 22% cut is not an inconvenience, it is a financial catastrophe. This is not a projection about what might happen to someone else in some abstract future. This is a projection about you if you are receiving Social Security today or plan to in the future, and it is now less than 7 years away. What the experts are saying, after the report dropped on June 9th, 3 major organizations responded immediately. The Associated Press issued a formal statement calling on Congress to take immediate bipartisan action. The American Academy of Actuaries, the independent professional organization for actuaries in the United States, issued a report within 24 hours stating that the window for gradual, manageable reform is narrowing significantly. The Bipartisan Policy Center issued similar findings, warning that the longer Congress waits to act, the more drastic and painful the eventual changes will have to be when they finally do act. In other words, the experts across the political spectrum are in agreement. The time to fix this is now, not later. Every year of delay makes the solution harder, more expensive, and more disruptive. What this means for you right now, practical steps. So what do you actually do with this information? If you are already receiving Social Security, the most important thing to understand is that nothing changes today, tomorrow, or next year. The current benefit system is fully funded through 2032 under current law. You do not need to panic. You do not need to take any emergency action today. And what you need to do is stay informed. Because over the next few years, you are going to hear politicians talk about Social Security reform constantly. You are going to hear proposals, promises, debates, and arguments. And now, armed with the actual numbers from the actual government report, you will be able to evaluate those conversations intelligently instead of being confused by the spin. A 22% benefit cut is not a theoretical number. It is the mathematically projected outcome of congressional inaction under current law. Anyone who tells you Social Security is completely fine and requires no changes is not being straight with you, and anyone who tells you Social Security is going away tomorrow is also not being straight with you. The truth is in the middle, and now you know what the truth actually looks like. If you have not yet claimed Social Security, this report adds a new factor to your claiming decision that you need to understand. Claiming earlier locks in a benefit level sooner, before any potential legislative changes. Waiting until age 70 to claim gives you a higher monthly payment, but it also means more of your retirement income depends on Congress acting responsibly before 2032. I'm not telling you which choice is right. That depends on your health, your other sources of income, your expenses, and your personal assessment of what Congress will actually do. But I am telling you that you deserve to be making that decision with accurate, complete information And the Trustees Report is part of that information. The 2027 COLA estimate, good news with a hidden catch. What the COLA is and how it works. Now let's move to the second major piece of news. This one actually has a positive headline, but stay with me, because hidden inside what sounds like good news is something that is quietly hurting millions of seniors right now, and you need to understand it. Every year, the Social Security Administration announces what's called a cost of living adjustment, COLA for short. This is the annual increase to your Social Security benefit designed to help your check keep pace with inflation. The official announcement for the 2027 COLA will come in October of this year, but here's something most people don't know. Independent analysts track monthly inflation data throughout the year and publish early estimates so that retirees can see which direction things are heading months in advance. The COLA calculation is based on a specific inflation measurement called the CPIW, the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers, and it's measured specifically during the months of July, August, and September. The average of those 3 months compared to the prior year determines the final adjustment. We are not there yet, but the May 2026 inflation data just dropped from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and the early estimate has jumped significantly. The numbers, what analysts are projecting. As of May 2026, the CPIW is running at 4.4% year over year. That is the highest inflation reading we have seen in 3 years. What's driving it? Two primary forces. First, energy costs. Gasoline prices and utility bills are up sharply due to ongoing geopolitical pressures that are keeping energy markets volatile. Second, food prices. The cost of groceries continues to climb faster than the headline numbers suggest, putting real pressure on fixed-income households every single week. Based on that May data, Mary Johnson, an independent Social Security and Medicare policy analyst who has tracked COLA calculations for decades, updated her official estimate on Thursday, June 13th. Her projection for the 2027 COLA is 4.7%. And she noted there is a considerable likelihood the number could climb even higher as the July, August, and September data comes in. The Senior Citizens League, a nonpartisan senior advocacy organization, is currently projecting 3.8% for the 2027 COLA. So the range of estimates right now is 3.8% on the low end to 4.7% on the high end. What that means in dollar terms? To put those numbers in real dollar context, let me compare them to what you received this past January. The 2026 COLA was 2.8% on the average monthly benefit. That added approximately $56 to your check starting in January. A 4.7% COLA in 2027 would add approximately $98 to the average monthly benefit. That's nearly double this year's dollar increase. On a benefit of $2,500 per month, a 4.7% COLA would add $117 per month. On a benefit of $1,500, it would add $70 per month. On a benefit of $1,000, it would add approximately $47 per month. More money every single month starting January 2027. That sounds great. And in dollar terms, yes, it is better than less money. But here's the part I really need you to hear. This is the part most coverage completely skips over. And this is where the hidden catch lives. The hidden catch. Why higher COLA doesn't mean you're keeping up. A higher COLA sounds like great news, and I understand why. More money coming in is better than less, period. But here's the reality that a lot of financial journalists and even politicians choose not to explain clearly. A higher COLA means inflation is rising faster than it was before. The COLA is a reaction to inflation, not a solution to. When the COLA goes up, it's because the cost of living went up first. Let me show you exactly what I mean with the actual numbers. The 2026 COLA of 2.8% added approximately $56 to the average monthly benefit starting in January. But according to Mary Johnson's analysis of current inflation data and May 2026 price levels, it actually costs the average Social Security recipient approximately $94 more per month just to maintain the same purchasing power they had 1 year ago. Read those two numbers again. Your check went up $56 and your cost went up $94. The gap between those two numbers, $38 every single month, is money that is quietly disappearing from your purchasing power. It doesn't show up as a line on your bank statement. It shows up as groceries that cost more than they used to, utility bills that are a little higher than last year, gas that takes a bigger chunk of your budget than it did, medical costs that seem to creep up no matter what. This is the structural problem at the heart of the COLA system. The adjustment is designed to track inflation, but because it's based on data from 3 specific months the prior year, it always runs slightly behind. And in a period of rising inflation, that lag can cost retirees real money every single month. The broader picture: 44% of retirees have no other income. This matters even more when you understand who is actually depending on these checks. According to a survey released this week by the Senior Citizens League, 44% of American retirees, that's 24.8 million people, now depend on Social Security for 100% of their income. Not most of their income, all of it. That number was 39% just 1 year ago. In 12 months, 5 more percentage points of American retirees moved into complete dependence on Social Security as their only source of income. That is not a small shift. That represents millions of people who have exhausted other savings, other retirement funds, or who never had significant savings to begin with. For those 24.8 million Americans, the gap between what the COLA covers and what inflation actually costs isn't a statistic. It's the difference between making rent and not making rent, between buying medication and skipping it, between eating well and cutting corners at the grocery store. This is why I always say, when we talk about Social Security, we are not talking about a political issue. We are talking about the literal financial survival of tens of millions of Americans. And you deserve to understand it fully and clearly. The practical takeaway on the 2027 COLA. So what does all of this mean for you practically right now? First, the good news that is genuinely good. The 2027 COLA is shaping up to be significantly larger than this year's. If the current trajectory continues, you will see a meaningfully bigger increase to your check starting in January 2027, and then you received in January 2026. That is real money, and it matters. Second, the context you need. A bigger check in a higher inflation environment is better than a smaller check, but it does not necessarily mean you are gaining ground. It may mean you are losing ground more slowly than you would have otherwise. Understanding that distinction helps you plan. Third, and most importantly, do not make any major financial decisions based on the current estimate. The official number will not be set until October. 5 more months of data, including the critical July, August, and September readings, will determine the final calculation. If energy prices stabilize over the summer, the COLA could come in at 3.8%. If they stay elevated or rise further, it could exceed 4.7%. We don't know yet. What we do know is that the trajectory is upward. That is genuinely useful context for any financial planning you are doing between now and October. But it is an estimate, not a guarantee. The full picture, what these two stories mean together. Here's what I want you to understand about these two stories together, because they are connected in a way that doesn't get discussed. On one hand, you have the Trustees Report telling you that the Social Security Trust Fund is moving toward depletion faster than previously projected. The window for Congress to act is now under 7 years. Every year they delay makes the eventual fix more painful. On the other hand, you have inflation rising faster than current benefits can fully cover, meaning that even with a bigger COLA coming in 2027, millions of seniors are already losing purchasing power month over month, right now. These two things happening simultaneously create a picture that is genuinely difficult. The program that 44% of retirees depend on completely is under long-term financial pressure, and in the short term, the cost of living is outpacing the adjustments that are supposed to protect retirees from exactly that problem. This is not a reason to panic, but it is absolutely a reason to be informed, to stay engaged, to pay attention to what is happening in Washington, and to make sure your own financial planning reflects reality, not wishful thinking. Your action checklist, what to do right now. Let me give you a clear, simple list of what to do with everything you just learned. Action 1, know your actual monthly benefit amount. Pull up your Social Security statement at ssa.gov or call SSA directly. Know your exact number so that when you do the math on a 22% cut or a 4.7% increase, you know what those percentages actually mean for your specific household. Action 2, track the COLA estimate through the summer. The July, August, and September inflation reports will be crucial. The final 2027 COLA estimate will sharpen significantly by September. I will be covering each of those data drops here on this channel as they come out. Action 3, watch the October announcement. That is when the SSA will officially announce the 2027 COLA. Mark it on your calendar. Be ready to adjust your budget planning for 2027 accordingly. Action 4. Pay attention to Social Security reform conversations. Over the next 12 to 24 months, expect to hear a lot of political debate about how to fix the trust fund shortfall. You now know what the actual stakes are. A potential 22% cut if nothing is done. Use that knowledge to evaluate what politicians are actually proposing versus what they're just saying to get your vote. Action 5. If you have not yet claimed, consult a professional. The 2032 depletion date and the legislative uncertainty around Social Security reform are now legitimate factors in the claiming decision. Talk to a financial advisor who specializes in retirement income and make sure you are factoring in these realities. Here's the bottom line. The Social Security Trust Fund depletion date moved to the fourth quarter of 2032, 1 quarter closer than last year. If Congress does nothing, a 22% automatic benefit cut hits every recipient. And the One Big Beautiful Bill's tax provisions helped retirees in the short term, but accelerated this timeline. And the 2027 COLA is currently projected between 3.8 and 4.7%, nearly double this year's dollar increase. But that good news comes wrapped in the reality that inflation is already outpacing what most seniors' checks are covering right now. You now know both sides of both stories. You are more informed than most people watching the evening news tonight. If this video helped you, please share it. Share it with your spouse, your sibling, your neighbor, your friend at church, your family member who depends on Social Security. This information belongs to everyone who needs it. It should not be buried inside government reports that most people never see. Hit that like button so more people can find this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on that notification bell. I will be right here tracking every development, every inflation report, every congressional hearing, every SSA announcement, and breaking it all down for you in plain language. Because you deserve to understand what is happening to your money. I'll see you in the next one.